Hey, what's up? Welcome to Degen Ed. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts like the chart behind me, which is of AMC Entertainment, ticker symbol AMC. And so here I am recording this on Friday, January 3rd, after the market has closed. And AMC closed the week at a price of $4.02, being flat on the day. And so, I think it's really good that we closed above $4 a share, because if I flip over to unusual whales here, we can see that max pain for today was in fact $4 a share. So I think it's good that we held above that level. However, we weren't multiple strikes above that level, so I don't think that there's going to be a gamma squeeze triggered or anything like that. But, I do think it is good, like I said, that we held that level. And so this video is going to be a little bit different than my other ones. Rather than doing, just what happened over the past week and going over different levels that may or may not be holding as support, I am going to go over my AMC thesis. I've covered this in prior videos, but I'm just going to try to lay it out with the fewest number of lines on the chart. Just break down what I think may be happening over the next 2 months, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to follow up with another video until either the thesis has been fulfilled or it has been invalidated. So I'll go over all of the levels that should be helpful for that. And so just to start, I've got these two trend lines drawn up here. I think that they're pretty important. And so following this big move that we saw in May, that's just to the left of the chart here, we basically traded within this range from about $4 up to around $6. And with these two levels, we do have some trend lines that I find to be pretty important. So this orange one here is based on the low from May 31st, which is $4.10. I've talked about that level before. And then the other pivot point is from this day, August 5th. The low on that day was $4.41. And what you might notice is we have this massive green candle on that day. And so that was a day when basically the entire stock market gapped down, but then we saw a very nice rebound. So that's why you have this nice big green candle there. But I feel like that was a very significant day in the stock market. So that was, again, the low of August 5th. And so from that trend line, we can see that, it kind of looks like we were testing it over here, but then broke lower. And then over here, more recently, we were trading above that level. So on Thursday, December 5th, we closed above $5 a share, closing at a price of $5.20. But then prior to market open on the 6th, we got the news of some dilution. And initially, I was actually pretty frustrated about that because I thought that it would be good, and I thought AMC had a chance to be closing above $5 a share on that Friday. And, with that being above max pain, I believe 450 was max pain for that week, but I might be mistaken. And so I just kind of felt like we got rugged with that announcement of the dilution. Although, I do think it is good that AMC is shoring up its finances. I was giving it the benefit of the doubt. But then following that, we just saw, I believe, 7 days of red candles. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a 7 count. And then we got this nice little bounce. But that was just pretty surprising to see, especially when compared to other stocks. I was hoping AMC would be hugging this orange trend line, but instead we pulled down to this purple one. So now I'm just going to talk about that one and where it originates from. And so following the big move in May, we did get this nice bounce. June 6th, we hit a high of $5.96. And so that is the first pivot point, with the other one being from August 1st, so just a few days before this gap down. So we got that nice trend line there, some wicks above it over here, testing it and getting rejected, then going down below that orange trend line. And then we did struggle a little bit here to get above it, but we did prior to getting rejected from that orange trend line, and now we are residing around that purple trend line, having hit a low over the past week of $3.86. That was on the 30th, which was Monday. And we also, got a second opportunity to grab some shares at $3.87 on the 31st before bouncing up a little bit to close above that purple downtrend for the week. So, I think that's pretty nice, but I think that we likely have more downside to go before moving up, notably. And so I just wanted to break that down. And so in prior videos, I've talked about the stock getting into the threes. I had mentioned getting down to $3.50. So, quite the possibility that getting into the threes, we saw that maybe that's the bottom, but I just don't feel like there is enough panic in the stock for the bottom to be in just yet. And so if I take a step back, we can see this big move that we saw over here in May, hitting a high during market hours of $11.88 on May 14th. But what did we see before that? Take a little bit more of a step back so we can see it clearer here. This all-time low of $2.38. So at that time, that was hit on April 16th, were we excited about the opportunity to buy AMC shares at $2.38? No, I would say probably not. We were all probably a little panicked thinking that it was going to be going down to $2 a share. But that was actually an excellent dip buying opportunity before this move up, consolidation, and then break higher. And so I don't think that we have actually hit that bottom yet. I don't think that we have hit the kind of panic that we saw on the 16th when we were hitting that all-time low. And so I think that the stock price does have a little bit further to go to the downside. And if you notice here, I've got this blue dashed line at $2.91 as that was the closing price on May 10th. And so I've talked about there being a gap down there, but that gap not getting filled. Basically, I feel like it's a little mousetrap or something like that, that retail probably sees this gap down here, sub $3 a share, and there's probably a good amount of people who are thinking, hey, I'm going to place a limit buy order, get a ton of shares at $2.91, where I have this alert here, and then, the price can take off from there. But I don't think that's how the market works. I think that people are going to be getting left behind, and I think price could be coming down to, like I said, into the threes, but not getting to $2.91. Because as you might notice, there's another blue dashed line here at $6.85, which was the closing price on May 14th. And following that, we gapped down, closed lower, we did wick higher, but we left a gap behind there. And so I think that the crowd who is waiting for their limit buys to be filled at $2.91 will recognize that they're being left behind when this gap is filled to the upside. And then those who realize they're getting left behind will then FOMO in, adding some more fuel to this rocket and send the stock price higher. And eventually those who did not get the signal of this gap being filled, they will then FOMO in later as well. So I think there's just a lot of rocket fuel for the stock price to be going higher. But, I said I don't think that price will be coming down to $2.91, but if it does, I have this alert here that if it goes off, that invalidates my thesis. But if it doesn't go off, it's all good. And if we don't go lower than 387, then I would say my thesis is still valid as well. We came into the threes, but I suspect we could be getting closer to $3 a share than we're currently at. And so that's why I have this alert here at $3.50. I don't know how low it's going to go exactly. I've joked about $3.69, but really, this is just an approximation. I don't have it down to the penny. just, about 10 cents plus or minus, I think price could be coming down to around $3.50, maybe coming down to $3, but I don't think those limit orders that I've suggested might be out there. I don't think they're going to get filled at 291. I think they will be getting left behind. So that's why I have this alert here at 350, so I know when we're getting massive discounts before I suspect we start to take off. And so one thing you might notice is I do have this yellow line here at $11.43. So why do I have that line there? And, is it just coincidence that it happens to correspond pretty nicely with the highs that we saw on May 14th? And so I had actually drawn that level well before this big move to the upside, but I didn't really respect it. I didn't really think about it too much. And so I just want to take a step back so I can show you where that line originates from. And it's actually the pivot high from November 6th. We hit a high of $11.43 before falling off a cliff here. And, even if we take a step back, we had fallen down this big cliff, consolidated, and broke down even lower. And so that just stood out to me as a level to note. And it ended up being a great predictor for the top here before we got this massive pullback. And so while I did not partake in it, and I'm not trying to suggest anything like this, but I think we could all agree that if we would have taken some profits here, we would have been able to use that money to then buy more shares at a discount. And so moving forward, I'm just going to suggest some levels that might be like this if we do get a big move to the upside. But at the same time, I want to caution that given that we've started a new year, 4 years since the 2021 big moves that we saw, and also with the resurgence of Roaring Kitty, it's quite possible we're going to be getting into some pretty big moves. And so I'm just talking about these levels because I know that some people might want to manage their risk. And so that's all I'm going to say about that. And so one of those levels, it's already up here, 1143. And so I think that when getting up to this gap, I think there's still going to be some momentum in the stock price because people are going to realize they're getting left behind, they're going to FOMO in, and it's going to push the stock price higher. But since we've seen a top over here, and we did see the top over here, it might be some resistance again. So I feel like between around $10 a share and $12 a share, we might be seeing some resistance. But since this low over here, since I'm suggesting it will be above $2.91, which is higher than $2.38, I suspect that we will be breaking above $12 a share and moving to the next level. And so what I have on here is we have another gap over here. So the closing price on August 23rd of 2023 was at $19.60. And the following trading day on the 24th, we had a high of $16.60. So that's why I have this dashed blue line here. That is the gap fill. And I have this orange line here because that is where the gap was left behind. And so I feel like what could happen is that price could move past $10, past $12, but might be getting into some resistance around $16.60 or $19.60. So really just kind of that range from around $16 up to around $20. And similar to the kind of psychology that I'm talking about with this gap here at $291, I think that a lot of people might be seeing gap at $19.60, expecting that to get filled, or $20 a share being an even number, whole dollar number. I think a lot of people, believe it or not, might be wanting to take some profits there. And so I think there could be some resistance in this range. And so I could see this gap being kind of, another like mousetrap, set there for people to go after 1960, but price to not get that high. So that's kind of why I give this range from around $16 to $20 a share. But there's also the possibility that the moves that we will be seeing, given that the 2021 anniversary is right in front of us, I think we could be going well past these levels, possibly up to around $40 a share. And so I have this red line here at 36.97. That was the pivot high from August 18th, right before plummeting off this cliff when there was a 1-for-10 reverse split on the 24th. And so if I take just a little bit more of a step back, we could see this gap that was formed following August 11th when we closed at $46.41, where that blue dashed line is. And then the high following that gap down was again 36.97. So I feel like if we do blow past 16, 20, whatever it is over here, maybe we actually consolidate here, form a bull flag, and then move higher. I think that would actually be a very healthy, sustainable formation there, forming a bull flag before moving higher. Then I think that we could see price right around $40 a share. But again, maybe we don't get to fill this gap because a lot of people might be expecting that. But regardless of any of these levels that we do go to, I think we could be seeing another pullback following the move, just like we saw on the 14th, hitting this high, but then pulling back to trade for months, more than half a year, in the range of $4 to $6. And so I feel that whatever level we get to, I suspect will be above $12 a share. Possible we top out around 20 or maybe a little bit lower. And if we do, I could see the stock price pulling back to $12 a share, maybe 10, and that being the new support level. And with that being said, I think that price could be residing around $10 to $12 a share for more than 6 months, just like it did down here in this $4 to $6 range that we saw since May. And there's also quite the possibility that price goes up to, $46 a share, but I do think that we would be seeing a pullback, maybe a different level access support, maybe $20 access support if we get a pullback from there. But I just wanted to put this out there because I have found putting out videos on AMC every single Friday over the course of 2024, with a few exceptions, that, I don't think we really need to have so many updates. So my thesis is that price will be coming down to $3.50, trading between that range and $3 a share, approximately. And once that happens, we will see a great dip buying opportunity like we saw on April 16th, and then maybe a few weeks later, maybe a month later, we will see a big move to the upside that, because we'll be starting from a higher low, I think that will go past $12 a share. And realistically, I think getting to around the $16 to $20 range. I think considering these levels, that gets into a little bit of the hopium territory. So realistically, I think that we might be getting rejected from around $18 or so before pulling back to around $12 to $10 a share. That will be acting as support for around 6 months before the next move up, which I would then suspect is to fill this gap up here around $40 to $50 a share. And so, I know that's probably not what a lot of people want to be hearing. I'm sure you want to be hearing me say $1,000 a share or, beyond that. But the reality is there was a level here. There was a top that was predicted, that was evident based on this high here. And, with that being said, maybe these intermediate levels that I've been talking about, maybe that's not it. Maybe what we want to be doing is taking a bigger step back to be looking at this peak here around $55, or maybe this peak here at $75. But I know from the comments, from exchanging with you guys, and also from my personal experience, it's tough to be accumulating this long. It's tough to be holding this long. And so, those are the levels that stand out to me. Do with them what you want. But, again, I think getting up to 12, I think that we'll be able to get past that. Even if we have a day or two or a week hanging out around 12, I think that's a bull flag. Moving up from there, I think it'll be good to consider, what's going on with the price. And if maybe we're forming another bull flag and then we go higher, or maybe we start to, wick down within the span of a day, and that would be a pretty clear topping signal. So, of course, good to consider that to manage risk. And so with that being said, I'm probably not going to do another AMC video until March. I'll be looking at other stocks. I'm happy to go over AMC during Ticker Request Live, which is a stream that I do every Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern. And also I will be covering some AMC contracts, options contracts. Specifically, I'm looking at 2 calls right now during my Saturday weekly options video. So make sure you check that out if you like some more thoughts on AMC. But as far as AMC video goes, I'm going to wait until either March gets hit, until 291 gets hit and this thesis is invalidated, or until, maybe we've seen price action up to around $20 a share. So, hopefully this finds you well. Hopefully your New Year's is off to a great start. Hopefully you're enjoying some popcorn, some movies, and some great times with family and friends. But, as always, those are just my thoughts. If you found them helpful, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts in the comments down below, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks a lot for watching, and take care, you guys. Happy New Year.